It feels like this week alone, we've gotten at least 10,000 new Trump corruption stories, and I truly don't even know how to process the sheer depth of this man's corruption because it's breathtaking and egregious. And I think that my brain is trying to force me to perceive it as a joke or a satire, maybe as some sort of coping mechanism to stop me from spiraling. I don't know. But when you really step back and you try to conceptualize it and contextualize it, most Americans, they probably get the sense that Donald Trump is the most corrupt president in American history by far, and it's not even close. And I think that that's inarguable. I would agree with them. Nixon looked like a Boy Scout by comparison. But to get a sense of the scale of corruption we're talking about here, you really have to look beyond the United States because it's not just that Donald Trump is unquestionably the most corrupt president in American history. He might literally be one of the most brazenly corrupt leaders throughout the history of the fucking world. And I know that that's an extraordinary statement that's really difficult to quantify, but when you look at it just from a numbers perspective, Trump's easily in the top 10 most corrupt leaders ever, possibly top 5 even, given how much money he's made off of his corruption. I mean, the Wikipedia entry on kleptocracy has a pretty hefty section just on Donald Trump, seeing as how his attorney general dismantled the DOJ's anti-kleptocracy unit, and he and his cronies have shamelessly profited off of the presidency in multiple ways through various scams and shitcoins, and it's gotten to the point where he has too many conflicts of interest to count. And the answer to the question in your head is, yes, this is all wildly illegal and he should be impeached and prosecuted for violating the emoluments clause at a minimum and spend the rest of his fucking life rotting away in prison. But since we are arguably a competitive authoritarian regime now, the Constitution and laws that governed us for 250 years are essentially null and void, which is why he's so brazen about all of his pay-to-play schemes, because he doesn't think that he's ever going to be held accountable for any of the shit he's doing. And even if there was an attempt to hold him accountable, I don't even know where a future prosecutor would begin. It would take years to prepare a case against him if you wanted to be as comprehensive as possible, and you'd have to hire an army of paralegals. But I can't emphasize enough that almost everything that he does is fueled by corruption, both personal and political, in some way, shape, or form. Everything he does. For example, you know how we tried to bring back flavored vapes, kind of like a random policy he introduced out of nowhere? Well, his FDA made that change after Big Tobacco gave $5 million to his super PAC. You know how ICE is spending billions of dollars buying concentration camps across the country? Well, as More Perfect Union reports, some of those properties were owned by Donald Trump's friends, and they were distressed assets that were losing them lots of money, but the Fed swooped in and paid them up to 10 times their listing price to bail them out. One example is Blue Owl Capital, which is a private equity firm that was paid double the listing price of an empty lot that they owned that's been vacant since 2024. And not only did this private equity firm donate heavily to Republicans in the last election cycle, but 33 members of the Trump regime have investments in Blue Owl, including Donald Trump himself, who invested $5 million into the company. And again, these are just a couple of examples. We also learned this week that Trump made thousands of stock trades since taking office while very clearly engaging in market manipulation. Axios reports President Trump disclosed more than 3,500 stock trades on his behalf in the first quarter. At least $1 million each was purchased in shares of NVIDIA, Oracle, Microsoft, Boeing, and more. The trading included sales of holdings in Meta, Amazon, and Walt Disney, among others. All told, there were hundreds of millions of dollars worth of transactions per the Financial Times, although it is not known how much money the president earned or lost as a result. And Rachel Maddow had a great breakdown of some of the things that he's done, brazenly so, to boost his stock portfolio.
So in January, Trump buys hundreds of thousands of dollars of stock in NVIDIA. Then a week later, his Commerce Department approves the sale of NVIDIA chips to China. Also in January, Trump buys between $50,000 and $100,000 worth of stock in AMD, which is another chip maker. 1 week after he buys it, his Commerce Department approves AMD doing business in China as well. Following month, in February, Trump buys millions of dollars worth of stock in Dell. Dell Computers, right? Dell Technologies. 9 days after he buys millions of dollars worth of stock in Dell, Trump veers off script in a speech in Georgia to tell the crowd literally, quote, go out and buy a Dell computer. Then in March, he buys up a whole bunch of stock in a company called Thermo Fisher. Repeated purchases of Thermo Fisher. Judd Legum at Popular Information reports that Trump repeatedly buys up Thermo Fisher stock. And then he goes and visits Thermo Fisher on a presidential visit. And on this presidential visit to Thermo Fisher, he praises the company repeatedly as an incredible company. He says, as president, that he wants other pharmaceutical companies to start working with Thermo Fisher. He buys their stock and then he goes out and boosts the company as president. Judd Legum also notes that that same day, March 11th, same day as the Thermo Fisher visit, that same day, Trump bought hundreds of thousands of dollars of stock in Apple. And then that same day he bought the stock, he did another event where he singled out Apple and Apple CEO Tim Cook for praise. Apple, a great company. Then after that, Trump buys between $50,000 and $100,000 of Micron stock. Okay? Between $50,000 and $100,000 in Micron stock. The very next day, he calls into the Fox News channel and tells them, Micron, it's one of the hottest companies. Then it's Palantir, CNBC reporting. Trump makes 7 separate purchases of Palantir stock, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Palantir stock. Then he gets on Truth Social and praises Palantir, Palantir Technologies. Great capabilities and equipment. He literally even posted the stock ticker abbreviation for Palantir right after he bought hundreds of thousands of dollars of their stock and got online to boost it, giving people the stock ticker abbreviation to make it easier for them to go buy some Palantir, to boost the value of the stock he just bought before he said this online.
He's doing this out in the open, in front of our eyes for everyone to see. He's not even trying to skirt disclosure laws because why even bother at this point? He's like, fuck it. What are they going to do? Arrest me? I have near absolute immunity. I could do whatever the fuck I want. And I cannot stress this enough. Every single thing he does is meticulously planned around his own wealth maximization, and he's not leaving a single penny on the table.
The demand for military drones has grown exponentially. US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has, it seems, been prepared. Last summer, he told the American public that the Pentagon wanted to buy drones made in the USA. The contracts would be worth millions of dollars.
In June, President Trump issued an executive order unleashing American drone dominance.
It just so happened that the president's sons, Don Jr. and Eric, had begun working for, or were heavily invested in, 2 US drone manufacturers. It's been reported by Forbes that at least one of those companies won over $15 million in military-linked orders, including from the US military. Within days of his second term, he was pushing MAGA merch from a makeshift gift shop in the White House to world leaders, including the presidents of Azerbaijan and war-torn Ukraine. It appeared crass, but at the time was widely viewed as harmless.
I'm 28 points higher than anybody. Everybody wants me to run, but
including
everything, you know.
That, however, was just the warm-up. The president's sons quickly capitalized on the rocketing value of the family name. Their business, the Trump Organization, announced a slew of real estate licensing agreements. Typically, they allow foreign developers, sometimes state-linked, to use the Trump brand name in exchange for fees and often a percentage of sales, netting huge profits. In Vietnam, there was a $1.5 billion Trump golf complex. In India, $700 million worth of branded ventures. And in Serbia, a $500 million Trump development was waved through until, rather unusually, it hit the buffers after a minister was accused of abusing his position. Crown jewel deals were done in the Arabian Peninsula. In Saudi, there were developments worth a total of $10 billion. In Dubai, a $1 billion tower with a similar project under discussion in Abu Dhabi. And in Qatar, a $3 billion golf resort.
As a construction person, I'm seeing perfect marble. This is what they call perfecto.
The result? The Trump family income was reportedly boosted by $849 million in under 6 months, This was the start of the fastest expansion overseas of the family's real estate business since it was founded a century ago.
Yeah. So the presidency has clearly been a boon to his business. I wonder why. I wonder why he's so popular in the business world all of a sudden. And let's not forget, he also profited off of the presidency in his first term to the tune of $1.6 billion. So if you're a Trump supporter wondering why he's not doing anything to help the cost of living go down, well, it's because he doesn't give a shit about your financial situation. In fact, he admitted this last week. He is there solely to enrich himself as well as his family and friends, and that's it. He's not even pretending to govern. He's doing a crime spree and committing highway robbery in broad daylight because he knows there's nothing any of us could ever do about the crimes that he's committing. He has near absolute immunity. And let's not forget about his pay-to-play pardon scheme. And the Campaign Legal Center released an analysis about the pardons that he's produced. And let me just go through a couple of examples with you. There's Trevor Milton, a tech executive who defrauded investors but was pardoned conspicuously after donating $2 million to Donald Trump super PACs. There's also Paul Walczak, who was convicted for stealing $10 million from his own employees. But of course, he was pardoned weeks after donating $1 million to Donald Trump's super PAC. Then there's Changpeng Zhao, founder of Binance, who was pardoned after his company enriched the Trump family to the tune of billions of dollars. And there's so many more examples, of course, but to demonstrate how common this is, the New York Times reports that Trump's pay-for-play pardons has literally led to the creation of a shadow industry of, quote, pardon whisperers who are making millions of dollars off of rich criminals because they're telling these criminals they have proximity to Trump and they have the ability to get him to notice their clients, assuming they're able to get on his radar by dropping a dono to one of his super PACs or enriching his family business in some way, shape, or form. But then, of course, there's the slush fund, the fucking slush fund, which is kind of the cherry on top of the shit sundae. Because Trump sued his own IRS, and I know that you're all familiar with the details of the situation by now, but I have to go through it again because it just keeps replaying in my mind because it's unbelievable. Like, I have to convince myself that this is reality. Trump sued his own IRS for the unauthorized release of his tax returns, then settled with his own IRS to create a $1.8 billion slush fund, which is primarily going to benefit insurrectionists and Trump allies and loyalists who break the law for him. But that's not all. The DOJ has also agreed to permanently bar the IRS from ever auditing him or his family businesses ever again. And as for those who get to decide who qualifies for this so-called anti-weaponization fund, well, it's a panel of his cronies because, of course, I can't help but laugh because what else am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to respond to this story? It's comical. And when you look at the response from Donald Trump, again, I can't not dissociate when listening to him because what the fuck is the country we're even living in at this point?
Why should taxpayers pay for the January 6th?
Well, it's been very well received, I have to tell you. I know very little about it. I wasn't involved in the whole creation of it and the negotiation. But this is reimbursing people that were horribly treated, horribly treated. It's anti-weaponization. They've been weaponized. They've been, in some cases, imprisoned wrongly. They paid legal fees that they didn't have. They've gone bankrupt. Their lives have been destroyed. And they turn out to be right. I mean, it was a terrible period of time in the history of our country. And they worked on it. I know the Justice Department, it's really been working on it very hard. There's been numerous other occasions over the years where things like this have been done. But these were people that were weaponized and really treated brutally by a system that was so corrupt, with corrupt people running it. And they're getting reimbursed for their legal fees and the other things that they had to suffer. Yeah, please.
Right. There were corrupt people who were weaponizing the Justice Department, but thank goodness that's changed. Look, I swear to God, he has to be trolling us at this point. I get that he lacks self-awareness and is in cognitive decline and almost certainly has no internal monologue, hence the lack of a filter, but this is so surreal that he has to be fucking with us at this point. And that's why I really struggle to process everything that we're dealing with. We're dealing with an unprecedented attack on the truth and reality. And as much as we try to stay grounded, it still makes our head spin because how could it not? It's overwhelming. And if I continue to talk about more individual instances of corruption, we would be here all day. But that's just one element of the Trump regime in this era. There's also the endless warmongering. They just bombed Nigeria. They're laying the groundwork for an invasion in Cuba and Bolivia. And like when it comes to policy, I can't name a single thing that he's done that's been objectively good as hard as I try. At best, we get neutral policies like him doing away with the pennies. Okay, I don't feel strongly about that. That's fine. But even the things that are ostensibly good, like the Trump accounts for babies born between 2025 and 2028, that's also a catch-22 when you dive into the details. As Time reports, it disproportionately benefits children from wealthier families who actually have the money to pay into these accounts every single year, and billionaires and celebrities who are donating to the pot are doing so to curry favor with Donald Trump, and that's pretty obvious. Nicki Minaj made a hefty donation of $300,000, hoping that it would get her citizenship. So it's turned into another influence peddling scheme for Donald Trump. But if they make it so that way rich people can donate stocks to these accounts, well, CNBC explains that permitting stock contributions to the Trump accounts would allow donors to offload appreciated shares without paying capital gains tax. Of course, like with other charitable contributions, they can also deduct the stock's fair market value against their income. And it also puts them in Trump's good graces because they're contributing to something that makes people believe Trump actually is trying to do something good for a change. But that's not really the case. So even when he proposes something that doesn't seem like the worst idea ever on its face, there's always a catch. Because he won't lift a fucking finger to do even the bare minimum for anybody unless there's something in it to be gained for him. And it feels pointless to even say this at this point because, like, the chance of it happening is at near 0%. But he really does have to go to prison for the rest of his life for all of this shit. If we don't hold him accountable for this, we will be nothing more than a failed state, where the cronyism will get even worse, where every rich dickhead in the country is going to continue to rob us blind until the entire country just collapses after they learn that actions have zero consequences. And look, I, for one, I don't want to live in a real-life version of The Purge. It already feels like we're living in a movie as it is, but like I don't want to live in one of the worst movies where crime is effectively decriminalized for rich people. So, I mean, if there's no punishment for this behavior, our country might actually be cooked. But at the same time, I don't have much hope.
I'm gonna come.
Do not come.
Welcome to the Come Zone.